Welcome to the Nonprofit Podcast. My name is David Higgins. We are on the ground in Ukraine right now looking at nonprofits that are doing an amazing job supporting the refugees crisis, supporting the medical needs created by this incredibly unjust attack from Russia into Ukraine. We are hoping that in the process of this conversation, you'll be able to not just see the amazing bravery of nonprofits as they're stepping into where even governments cannot step because of fear of escalating the battles, but they are also doing it in such a great way, a well thought out way, and we're celebrating those organizations. As we go into this episode today, we look at who we spoke about last week, Joshua House, that is outside of Lviv and working on the ground in Ukraine. And this week, we also have another interview with another nonprofit doing a great job in Ukraine. But I am not alone. I would like to just welcome my co-host.
Hi, everybody. I'm Sandra Curry, and this is my lovely husband, Colton Curry. And we're all the way reporting from Ukraine right now, next to Lviv. We're actually right outside of Lviv.
Yep. You have just came off of a really exciting interview. Can you tell me a little bit about that interview?
So we just came off an interview with Tamara Demoria. She's the chief humanitarian officer of Corus. And it was really a great interview. She shed a lot of light on what they're doing in Poland, helping refugees that come across the border, but also telling us about, plans to help rebuild whenever the dust settles in Ukraine.
I also sent a video of President Zelensky, and it's an amazing clip that he put together, and it's titled Was, What Ukraine Was and What It Could Be.
Was, a simple verb, merely a part of speech used in everyday life. But it's not that simple for us, because now the everyday Ukrainians simply cannot say was without bursting into tears. This was my home. This was my friend. This was my dog. This was my car. This was my job. And this was my father. And this was my daughter. The millions and millions of fresh wounds are bleeding with that wounds. Russia has drowned Ukraine in tears and blood and children corpses. But there is one thing Russia doesn't get. Was is the word that describes its life. And we Ukrainians already know what will come next. We will win. And there will be new houses, there will be new cities, there will be new dreams, there will be a new story, there will be, there's no doubt. And those we've lost will be remembered. And we will sing again, and we will celebrate anew. Yes, Ukraine was beautiful, but now it will become great, great Ukraine.
My heart breaks for what's happening in Ukraine, but the ability to sow such hope. And when you speak to Ukrainians that are there and in the fight, even the refugees, they say they don't want to leave too far from the border because they're looking forward to coming home again, back to their homes. And those that are coming from total devastation, cities that look like they've been carpet bombed like Mariupol, they're saying they cannot wait to move back home and rebuild again. Such a brave people and such a great leader in this time of such crisis. Well, we have news that has happened over this last week we would like to share with you. Maybe you've heard some of it, maybe you haven't, but Sandra, Colton, and I have put together a couple highlights over the last 7 days. And let's just rejoice in the victories and cheer on those that are standing against all odds.
Something that I read up on, it's Red Cross. You know, they went to Russia to help.
So the story that Sandra is about to communicate, she emphasized the word crazy. The whole idea just was odd. And she was talking about it, the fact that nonprofits would be going all the way into Russia through a conflict zone to help Ukrainians. But the word crazy actually was a good choice because the story has gotten crazy. And I have to interrupt our podcast. We recorded this just a few days ago. And yet yesterday, new news has come out from two different sources that makes us want to pull back on the story of what the Red Cross was doing. In our research following the story, we discovered the Red Cross is in 4 different locations in the United States, has come under federal indictment for fraud. We've gone ahead on our YouTube channel. You'll see some of those pictures that are pasted as I speak. If you're listening to this on the podcast, you can go look on our YouTube channel, or you can go ahead and just look up Charity Navigator, type in Red Cross of Washington or Red Cross of Detroit. There's several others in the nation that they say do not donate to these organizations because of fraud or suspicion of embezzlement. The problem that has occurred that on the 2 reports that we have heard, that what has taken place is the Red Cross has taken large donations from the Russian government. And this particular group of the Red Cross is actually going into eastern Ukraine, into Mariupol, into these bombed out cities where no one was allowed to leave, and no human corridors were allowed, and they continue to shell on top of these civilians. Then they allowed the Red Cross to come in transportation vehicles and ferry them out of that across the Russian border. And I kid you not, they were ferried into labor camps that were deep into Russian territory. The number is between 23,000 and 63,000 people have been ferried into these camps, and has been used the Red Cross as the transportation and the ability to take people from one place to another, so that it's not the Russian military doing it. Now, do we know this for a fact? No, we can tell you that we've heard this from 2 different news sources, that we heard that just in the last 24 hours. And therefore, our story that we're about to talk about just a few days ago seems to be superseded by this new news, which is tragic. And we do want you to know, in the world of champion nonprofits, if this is the case, be careful in your donations to the Red Cross, especially that is taking place in Russia, in the Ukraine region, until we find out actually what is taking place. Because if it's true that they've taken large donations from the Russian government to fulfill the Russian government's agenda to repopulate eastern Ukraine with Russians themselves following this war, I would say you need to be aware of this and donate accordingly. So, a piece of very interesting news that I think is worth celebrating, in our opinion, when the good guys are winning and when those that are fighting for freedom for their own peoples. There is a landing strip that is between the Russian border and Kyiv that has been used as a staging area by the Russians since the end of the first week of conflict, to bomb villages, bomb civilian areas, as well as bomb military targets in and around Kyiv. And so special forces were sent in, and they destroyed this particular airspace. They bombed all the airplanes. They turned around, blew up all the helicopters, staging support vehicles, armaments, tanks, and cleared this entire area. Dozens and dozens of air as well as land vehicles were destroyed, and the special forces left the area. Well, according to drone footage, a few days later, they found out that the Russians had come and cleared the space and reset it as a staging area. The same way it was before. They just came in with the same amount of planes, helicopters, tanks, armament, and just restaged it. It's almost like an administrative loop. So they, scratching their head, said, okay, so they went in again because they did not upgrade at all the security to the airport, and they blew up everything again. They went in there and destroyed the tanks, the armaments, the helicopters, and the airplanes, the fighter jets that are on that location. To their shock and amazement, when they went back 64 hours later with drone footage to see what had happened in the space, the Russians, in their bureaucracy, had cleared it all out and restaged it as a landing place. Tanks in the same place, helicopters in the same place, new fighter jets in the same place. Well, they decided to go in a third time and attack it again because they hadn't changed their security protocols. They wiped it out. That happened 3 times in a row. And you say, Dave, this is unreal. This is probably not, where did you hear the story? Well, the press not only has seen the footage, they interviewed the special forces that's gone in and out multiple times. And the story gets crazier than that. They have gone in over 3 times, over 4 times, over 5 times. The Russians just keep resupplying and cleaning this base and setting up again, and they did not change their security protocols. So multiple times have they gone in and repeated the exact same mission, destroying basically military weapons and stuff that have just been laid out there to attack Kyiv with no security parameters. The other thing that they did is finally the Russians, after the 8th mission, decided to try to shoot down a drone that was hovering above taking pictures of the space. And they shot a ground-to-air missile straight up in the air to hit the drone. It missed the drone, and it came down and exploded right in the middle of the air space where a number of aircraft was being parked, and killed their own pilot and destroyed some of their own equipment. I kid you not. That's exactly how it was reported. And I share the story with you. It is true that Russia is pulling back out of the region. They are resetting to take the Donbas area, and they're they're right now moving all their supplies to the east because they say that that is really what they want to do strategically. But the truth is, they're getting beat around Kyiv. They're getting beat because of their own poor leadership, their own poor military presence. And I thank God that's that way because it gives the ground for the Ukrainians that are much less equipped to be able to push against an amazing military might and be able to push them out of the region and hopefully be able to take resources and open up the ground area around Kyiv so that they no longer are getting any kind of artillery barragement into the city from the neighboring townships and region. Let's go back to our podcast. And you say, why, David? Is it all you talking right now? It's because Sandra today is at the hospital and she looks like she might be having her baby soon. And so I can't wait to hear more about that next week. But as of the recording of this episode, as you'll hear at the end of this particular podcast, that's still a little bit away. And don't get confused by the timeline. Let's dive back into the podcast. Thank you.
They actually got captured from Mariupol. It's a city in Ukraine that has literally been destroyed. So yeah, they're hostages from Mariupol, Ukraine.
It's pretty easy to find pictures of Mariupol on the news here. It's heartbreaking. They over 85% of all buildings have been completely flattened. It looks like it's been carpet bombed.
Yeah, it's literally. I don't think there's any I don't even think there's any place to live there anymore. It's just been, I don't know how to say
It's
it.
like a bombardment.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are still underground, stuck in bunkers with very little food, water. Yes.
Yes, they have little kids. Maybe some of the women actually they go in labor in the bomb shelters, and it's just crazy.
This is one area that I think is incredible. So governments can't go in and rescue them. I know they're afraid of creating World War III, so they can't send military in to stand in water. And that's where nonprofits have tried to really push in. And we've seen one nonprofit convoy trying to get into Mariupol to bring in water, just water. The Russians won't let them in. In fact, at one point, The first time they tried, they came under attack. Now they're being held back, ready to go in, and it's incredible the bravery of these nonprofits as they're very involved with what's happening. It's kind of like another group called Rubicon. Rubicon is an incredible nonprofit, former military, a lot of medics, that type of thing within Rubicon, and they're there helping in Ukraine on the ground. Incredible bravery that is taking place among the nonprofits that are in country.
It's like firefighters, they're also the heroes, you need to mention a lot of times because they actually go into the buildings that are on fire and they rescue a lot of people, families with kids, pregnant wives, and they rescue people and they put out a lot of fires, especially if you have like a big building, a really tall building with apartments. They're doing an amazing work, maybe they're not out there fighting with guns, but they are saving a lot of lives, risking their own life,
Do you know if they wait till the bombardment ends before they go in and start trying to rescue people, or do they do it while they're under fire?
They do it while they're under fire. Some of them, they go ahead and they just try to save people right away because they know, saving few people, it's already a lot, and yeah, they're putting their lives right at risk, saving and going ahead,
Those are heroes. We talk
Yes,
about bravery, but you're running into bombardment, kind of like a medic does, under fire, trying to save a life.
Yes, exactly.
On the side of just news, not passing on gossip, but verified news through news sources and intelligence agencies. We got a couple of things we just want to pass on to you, the listener. And maybe you've heard about this, but this is what has taken place over this last week, going into last weekend. And then we have a little bit of baby news coming up as well. So hold on. Do you guys want to go first over there in Ukraine? Some of the news that you know that is happening around about you?
So the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense came out with a statement saying that they were worried that Russia was going to stage a terrorist attack on Chernobyl. They had been seen taking dead Ukrainian soldiers and putting them into box trucks, refrigerated ones, and they just assumed that that's probably what's going to happen. So they warned the UN, they warned everybody pretty much, and that was a big story this week. Also, Joe Biden, he said that he believes that if chemical warfare is used in Ukraine, that NATO would join the fight.
Wow, that could be a two-edged sword. Will that hold back Russia's hand, or are they wanting to escalate the problem?
Yeah, it seems like he's prodding a little bit. Who knows what could happen? But
we do know that Ukrainian morale is very high right now. They've had some huge wins. For the first time since the invasion happened, they've gone on the offense. Do you know of any stories that's taking place right now that you're like, man, this last week we've had some really big wins that you could share with us?
I know that there were stories of a Russian ship that had been sunk, the Orsk. It was a 3,000-ton fuel tanker, and it damaged a few other ships on the way down.
My goodness. I think we saw video footage of it. They got hit by 4 different rockets, I understand, and no one understands how Ukrainian troops got behind the Russian lines to make that happen.
Yeah, nobody understands, but we see the victory, and it's definitely encouraging a lot of people to push on.
One of the great news reports from this last week, a news reporter in Kyiv was doing some research, and he looked up and saw somebody walking in from the front lines, and it changed news reporting from the previous week. So everyone has heard of the Canadian sniper and his team that were in retirement that went from Canada over to Ukraine to help in the fight. Considered the number one sniper in the world. 1 week, which was being a week and a half ago, that he went in and Russia started saying they killed him on the first day. In fact, wiped out his entire team. And for an entire week, no one had heard this, and it had been repeated by Russian news agencies and those supporting Russian news agencies that they had been killed almost immediately. In fact, even the families of those soldiers had heard the news and had not heard anything else for over a week. And just here, our recording day here is on Friday. Yesterday, on Thursday, we ended up they saw them walking back out of the front lines. They didn't know they were dead. They didn't know for a week they'd been reported as dead. And they came back into resupply because they ran out of bullets. So instead of them being killed in action, they had been fighting the entire week in the front lines and just came back to resupply. And he spent the rest of the day while the rest of his team went in to go get warm food and have a sleep. He had to call back to the Canadian government and his own family, let them all know that everybody was alive and well. Well, the reason why this series is happening is because of an amazing nonprofit in Ukraine that is right now caring for widows, caring for orphans. It is called Joshua House Life Centers. Yes, they have their headquarters in Florida, but they have been in Ukraine for over 25 years, working with, supporting, and taking care of widows and orphans. For the most part, up to this point, either children that have been completely abandoned and living on the streets, or those that were trying to be trafficked into sex trafficking, and they were rescued and needed a home, needed a family. And Joshua House is unique. They are not an orphanage. What they are is a group of moms and dads that adopt these children so these children have families. They have brothers and sisters and moms and dads. And you may have a house with 16 children, but they operate like a family with the love and the support and the care of a family. And in these homes, they have really created over the last 25 years a healthy environment to raise up generations of freedom-loving Ukrainians that want to not just go and become incredibly educated, but give back to the communities. And some of them come back and start their own homes within Joshua centers. And then we end up with another family full of children that have been rescued with their own mom and their dad. It's a beautiful organization, Joshua House Life Centers. You can hear and see more about them on joshuahousecares.org, joshuahousecares.org, and you can support them. They're right now opening up their doors and filling every one of their facilities with children that are orphaned because of war, because of this attempted occupation from Russia. They are also open their doors to war widows whose husbands have died on the front lines, and these moms with the children are needing family around them right now, and so they're bringing them in and giving them the support and love and care. For some, they're helping them get across the border to Poland. For others, that is becoming their home, their location. They're needing your support right now. And I would like to encourage you, go on their website, joshuahousecares.org, and support them to as much as you can today. Thank you so much. And Sandra and Colton, I'm going to hand this off to you. Can you just introduce a little bit about who it is that you interviewed?
I would like to introduce to you Tamara Demoria. She's an amazing woman, and she works with an amazing organization, nonprofit, Corus. And it was just such a pleasure talking to her.
Hi, everybody. Today we get the chance to interview Tamara Demoria, Chief Humanitarian Officer of Corus, a global humanitarian organization working out of Baltimore, Maryland. In 2020, Corus helped over 35 million people worldwide and are now raising money and helping the refugees coming out of Ukraine.
So, hi, Tamara, and how are you doing today?
Thank you for having me and giving me this opportunity to be with you today. I hope you are also safe and sound. I know that you're dialing in from Ukraine.
Thanks so much.
Yes, thank you for giving us the opportunity to interview you guys. So we just wanted to start out with maybe you could give our listeners, maybe just a little background on how you guys started, or how your nonprofit grew.
Sure. Once again, thank you and greetings to the audience that will be listening to this podcast. I will start by providing a brief background on Corus. It's an international humanitarian organization committed to overcoming poverty and suffering for those living in the world's toughest and most difficult circumstances. We respond to floods, earthquakes, hurricanes, escalation of conflict, displacement, vulnerabilities of millions of people, and some of them continue to live in protracted crisis, as we all know.
Wow, it's a lot of great work that you guys do. It's awesome. So one of the first things we saw whenever we looked into Corus was that you guys have already committed $3 million to helping with the crisis in Ukraine, and we think that's amazing. What are the ways that it's being distributed whenever it comes to all the things that you're doing for Ukraine and its people?
Indeed, we're very thankful to have seen such amazing solidarity of individuals, corporations, foundations, and other donors that came together around the world to support unfolding humanitarian suffering of Ukraine. And particularly, thanks go out to those that have contributed and continue donating to our organization, enabling us to kick off provision of emergency supplies, cash transfers, and protection support to sexual and gender-based violence victims, which unfortunately are numerous, especially during the crisis of such magnitude.
Yeah.
Currently, we're working with international and national partners in Poland, launching a $2 million cash assistance program that will run for at least 3 months, providing access to multi-purpose, flexible cash donations to the families arriving to at least 6 reception centers by the Polish border. We have also shipped at least 2 40-feet containers full of non-food items such as hygiene kits, blankets, personal items of emergency use, and are distributing those to the arriving refugees in close partnership with the Polish government and other local organizations on the ground. It is worth noting that while we're seeing large numbers of Ukrainians fleeing, we're also noticing that and are concerned by the displacement of other nationalities residing in Ukraine until the war broke out. Our assistance will be open to all of those that had to run for their lives, seeking peace and refuge since February 24. As most of us also follow the news and reports coming out of Ukraine on daily, if not hourly basis, we're very concerned that the needs inside Ukraine are vast, as the largest number of the population remains in country. And not everyone is considering fleeing to other countries for various reasons, being the lack of language barriers because of lack of connections or fear or etc. The list is long, and as the situation inside Ukraine is changing every day, we're working with the local organizations to identify the networks of getting the assistance inside the country to the most effective parts of the different regions and cities that are unfortunately undergoing active military invasions right now. We plan to support restoration of the livelihoods and provide assistance rebuilding Ukraine's disrupted essential services, and we're really proud to be partnering with the brave countrymen and women of Ukraine, sheltering the displaced, extending essential healthcare, food and non-food items, because the contribution of the local civil society is absolutely outstanding right now. And I guess these are the channels we're also trying to tap into to augment the capacity to attend to the needs.
Yeah, it's definitely great work. And I know that everybody that's in Ukraine appreciates all the humanitarian support coming from outside, from the U.S., from the stations in Poland.
Maybe you could tell us some of the things that Corus is trying to accomplish in the next few weeks. What are some of the main goals?
Sure. As I noted, it's inside Ukraine at this stage, it's very challenging to talk about the certainty of humanitarian operations. As with the fluidity of situations, I think humanitarian organizations are compelled to demonstrate high level of agility, flexibility, and creative approaches to tweak the strategies ensure those are that require immediate assistance are still attended to. On the border, in the border countries, we are focusing on Poland right now, providing support that I have already mentioned. But I would like to underscore one more time the importance of the engagement of Ukrainian civil society, because a lot of the focus will soon shift towards rebuilding the economy and taking care of the destruction that has happened as a result of the war inside Ukraine itself. And the Ukrainian civil society is the backbone of the emergency operations right now. So we will continue over the next few weeks extending the support by prepositioning goods at the border and making sure that they reach through the existing logistics channels and supply chain inside the country to those that are attending to the needs of most affected populations, but also work with the local civil society organizations that we're partnering with to identify more medium and longer term needs. So right now, I think it is mostly focusing on life-saving operations, provision of emergency shelter, food and non-food needs, because there is a significant displacement happening inside the country itself. And I think until the military operations cease, we will still see a lot of that augmenting in numbers.
Yeah. So we just wanted to get some of your personal thoughts on what's going on in Ukraine right now. Like you told us earlier, you're originally from Georgia, and you said you have some familiarity with the things, some of the things that are going on right now. So we just wanted to get some of your personal thoughts.
Yes, I am originally from Republic of Georgia, and my professional ethos aside, this war is extremely sensitive to me as an individual who experienced similar military intervention since 1991, with the latest in 2008 during Georgia-Russia war, witnessing hardship, loss of loved ones, family members, internal displacement of hundreds of thousands, supporting the humanitarian response myself because I was already working on the humanitarian issues, and overall ruined lives of the generations that will take a long time to cure. So being from the country whose 20% is of the territories are still occupied by Russia to date, this military operation, which is a full-blown war, is unjustifiable, inhumane, and largely a huge political game, distressing general population, resulting in the loss of innocent lives and creating suffering that cannot be reversed. Anyone understanding how oppressive the Soviet regime of 70 years with the lack of freedom of speech was, a lack of movement, lack of freedom of choice, should be condemning this war and Russia's political and military advancement. That's I think, something that we're seeing now picking up across different parts of the world, with governments trying to support and make everything possible to end this war. So I guess Ukrainian people have demonstrated to the world extreme bravery, defending sovereignty, independence, desire for bright future of their children, and love of their homeland. And I sincerely hope that this war will end soon and let new generations enjoy the future they deserve. So you can always go to the website corusinternational.org, where you'll find all of the relevant information about our response. You can also follow us on social media through Lutheran World Relief. As I said, Corus is a member of several organizations. So Lutheran World Relief page on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter also has a lot of these updates, as well as the donation capability if you decide to contribute to this response.
It's really great to see people who care, and they still have a heart for Ukraine. It's amazing what you're doing, guys. Thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Thank you very much for having us and giving me a chance to tell you a little bit about our response in Ukraine. So we hope for the better outcome. Thank you.
We love having you. Thank you so much. Bye.
It was a great interview. Thank you so much for bringing that to us, Sandra. I know this next week you have an interview with about 3 different nonprofits, which will be bringing some of that to you as a listener in just another 7 days.
Yes, we have some interviews scheduled for next week, and we're looking forward to those.
Excellent. Any hints on which nonprofits you're going to be speaking with?
So lined up, we have Global Giving, we have Heart to Heart International,
we have created a list of the top 50 nonprofits that are in Ukraine. In fact, you can see that list on our website, the Nonprofit Podcast, as well as on nonprofitonline.net. Both those websites have the top 50 nonprofits supported by Charity Watch and Charity Navigator and their scores for those 50 nonprofits. And the ones that you are talking to are in that category of those nonprofits that are most effectively using what is given to help and genuinely help the people within Ukraine. So that's exciting. I can't wait to hear some more of these interviews next week. Well, before we leave, I have a question for you. So from the time this episode gets aired, within 48 hours, which is this next week, you will be having a baby.
Yes, we actually are. And it's really amazing because in the midst of everything that is going on, we're still ready, to have a baby. We're excited for this little baby to be born.
Any hint yet? You're going to let me know? Are you having a boy or a girl?
No, we can't tell you. We can't. In 48 hours, maybe we will tell you.
And I can't say anything because I'm too afraid.
You're afraid of if you slip up. So I can't give you any trick question like, so what's the name of the baby?
Oh, no. We can't tell you that either.
Okay.
Not at the moment.
No.
All right. Well, the nice thing is when we get a chance to celebrate with you, we'll be so excited. And we're so happy that the two of you are safe. And we are believing that the birth of your baby will be amazing. And just what that adds to the whole family dynamic. One thing, though, you will have to give us, Colton, a blow-by-blow what it's like to change diapers.
Oh, I'm still trying to mentally get around that.
You know what? There's a lot of danger in Ukraine, and that's just part of coming with the territory, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely. I think I'm more scared of the poop than I am of the war,
We are so excited for you both. Please stay safe, and I cannot wait to speak to you again in 7 days.
Yeah, we're looking forward to.
We can't wait to come back.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Take care. And for all of you listening to this podcast, thank you so much for being part of this incredible audience. We are so glad that you are part of this conversation. And what I would love to say is in our links that are below in the description of this podcast is the website and for Joshua House and
Corus International.
And if you are able, please give to those that are giving so much to this war-torn nation. And let's stand with Ukraine as they fight for freedom. Colton and Sandra, take care, and we'll talk again soon.
All right, David.
Bye.
Goodbye, everyone.